welcome everybody to another amazing Wednesday show. Today we've got Debbie joining us, and she has so much to share. We've got an incredible reading with Irene where we're going to learn about coin magic. We're going to see a potential record reader in the making. We're going to learn about ghost planets. But Andrew, before we get into that, do you just want to give us a little bit of a, galactic gossip? Just something
we have
lighten our week.
We have all of these organizations that are doing their military drills now, and it is like propaganda's fanfare and tour around the world to gather fear, much like a tour around America would gather people like to vote for somebody, or a band going on tour to gather fans. So now we have Operation Maple Syrup or something to that effect going on in Canada. Okay, where they're now doing the same thing. Each government is now mimicking troop movements for the purpose of adding fear to the organizations that are observing it, because they're constantly trying to cover up all of the things that are going missing in our world. There are dozens of oil tankers that have gone missing over the past few years. These are beyond MH370, beyond the airplanes that have made it to the public. There have been hundreds of smaller yachting vessels with a handful of people on them who have gone missing also. All of these beings are being intercepted by a frequency of disjointed time. They're getting pulled out of time. They're getting putting through vortexes. But they don't want us to know that, because the propaganda is making sure that we are still adjoined to the television, conjoined with commercialism and consumerism, that our manifesting reality doesn't allow for a submarine to be in the Sudan desert, because that has happened. And there are dozens of other scenarios where the simple propaganda can no longer use swamp gas reflecting the sun as something that is coming through as a reality-altering effect. We saw these combinations of sacred geometry effects and a rainbow halo expression over Arizona a few months ago. And I said then, you will be seeing that in other places. In Australia, in their southern Aurora Borealis, they had the pink skies exactly the way I described. The green skies exactly the way I described. Why? Because those are the manifest frequencies of light that are coming through now. You want the skivvy? Look up in the skies. Stop believing in the chemtrails. Stop allowing the filter of belief for you to see that it's a gray sky and that it's an infinite sky of color. And in that color are the rainbow portals to perception of other dimensional cities made of light that are in coexistence with us. They are just not in the same perception of time stream the way we are.
Mm-hmm. I remember, Debbie, 2 days ago, we had that incredible double rainbow, and we actually took a picture of it, and Andrew and I were doing a special ceremony at that time, and then all of a sudden we get this picture from you guys, and you're like, oh, this is a good omen, and that rainbow had colors that we had never seen before, and it was a double rainbow, and you went into it, and you totally looked at the frequency of what that was, and you were saying it was something to do with the light cities over Rainier, and you and Andrew have talked about that before.
Yes.
Do you want to expand on what you were sensing and what you were feeling when you caught that the other day? Was it excitement?
It was, and it was really, I was really fascinated because of the colours, like you said, and it was huge. It was a whole auric glow with that rainbow, and that's why I really felt compelled to comment.
Yeah,
when you sent it to me, yeah.
And what did you feel like? Did you feel excitement bubble up? Because when you were texting me, there was you were just so jazzed. It's like you became all shiny and you felt all glittery, and there was just some kind of a connection. I know in our reading with Irene, she does hold blood that creates portals, and that's why she's got such great potential as a reader. And we will be talking about that ghost planet. But for you, who does this on a near daily basis. That was really interesting. Nigh daily basis, what? On a near daily
colloquial
basis.
rephrasing.
Multidimensional blah. And that the similarities between what Andrew was describing and you, because you are able to help these people get those gateways when something like that's happening in our area. I saw you, and it was just incredible to the words you were using at that time when that double rainbow was there, and you were so in that flow, and it was just an incredible experience for you to share with us.
And I did bubble up with excitement when I saw that, because it was so amazing to see you took this photo on your property here, right? And it was so clear, and the frequencies to me is like an opening up of a portal, and it's giving a frequency of a message, because light carries information. And so I was picking up on, because the dense energies of, just lately have been pretty heavy. And so when that rainbow came up, to me, it's like an omen, a promise. There's something greater that's going to happen,
Something in that moment did happen. The rainbow has the arc to it. And there are many people that perceive that arc ends just above the surface of the earth. No, its arc completes and go deep under the earth and connects us to our ancestors, who are also a part of the rainbow frequency. Our ancestors that are in hollow earth are another refraction of our light. So that rainbow, when there's one on the surface, it comes also underneath. And when there are underground rainbows, a different form is rainbow on the surface created, which makes a conjoining moment where a light city can be combined on the surface and become manifest as a physical city. This would be an example of a reading I gave a few weeks ago about a gentleman in the Alabama coast that saw a version of himself in a light manifest city. That is when the underground and above ground rainbows conjoin to mass manifest the city of light. So rainbows are their own unique portal technology that are related to our blood. Our blood generally recycles every 56 days. And so as our blood comes, it has got a psychic pheromone in it that is telling our reality, work with us a specific way. So if one is constantly on fear, the next group of blood that's coming in is going to be telling your body, deal with fear. You will be in adrenal gland lizard mode, fight or flight first, before you're in a love choice first. So when you have long periods of meditations that go for 30, 40, 50 days, not just every day meditating, but when you're in that frequency of renewing yourself, the next layer of blood that comes you is amplifying your experience many, many fold.
That's right. And I remember also when we were talking about the light cities, we are redoing something called astral travel. And we have done it here in the studio with some incredible information. And that
imagery that really completes it.
Yes, and we will be bringing that out to you. And there, Andrew also goes into depth, in quite depth. What a day today. Anyway, Andrew goes into quite depth. Mea culpa, guys, mea culpa. And you'll really love it. And he explains also how we can do light body exchanges in these light and astral cities that he talks about, and how incredible when you start to have those experiences, how these cities can take all different shapes and forms. So stay tuned for that, guys. It's really something quite fascinating. I'm coming to Irene though. Coin magic. I mean, that's quite a story. Reading a record of someone like that and discovering, being a pickpocket, first of all, and getting a coin like that. I mean, wow.
So you guys are going to be seeing another teaching that's part of our series, Return to the Inner Kingdom. And Irene is a classic example of a soul that has gone through tremendous teachings, and these teachings relate about understanding time at a bigger understanding, a bigger frequency. And there's a revocation at the end in there that many of you will like. But yes, we come to talk about coin magic. How often do people have coins in their pocket all over the world? It's a common shared reality experience that is tactilely connected to hundreds of other lifetimes sharing coin. That is a natural form of esoteric magic to attempt to learn and perceive. That is why we live in a Babylonian debt curse with dealing with money. But when it comes to individual coins can go from your pocket to the now to the pocket of you in the past. And yes, they have that unique way of going to different places, as well as being used by time travelers to pay gold into people in the past who think they would just melt it down and put it to their own signal or seal. And that is what we began to experience here, where the understanding that coin magic and coin perception through time is a very unique way to understand people, places, things, and events.
Right. So do you think that has any relativity to the penny? I mean, there are a lot of people I know that the copper penny, for example, there's some people quite famous that every time they find a copper penny, they really contemplate what they were thinking at that moment they found the copper penny, almost like the pennies dropped. There are others that think it is for luck and cast copper pennies. I mean, what is that any relativity to that or relation to that?
No, because a lot of the times where it came to the copper penny, it's when you were a beggar and they were doling it out by walking down the street throwing copper coins, and whoever got the most got the most.
I see.
And unfortunately, that program has come through where a penny for your thoughts. You throw a penny on the ground for that person for literally that reason. They're telling you, act, serve me service.
Wow.
So there are different programmings when it comes to coin and the paying for something through coin. And then when you're asking spiritually, what can a copper coin do to you? It has shared thousands of psychic experiences. Now, copper itself can be a very useful tool at divining with the self and healing the self. But when it has the stamp on the front and the back and it has an intention put in that rates it as value, it alters that perception. If one knows that this altered perception is there, and puts that copper penny into a scrying bowl and begins to learn where that coin has come from, they'll discover that the mineral inside, the mineral being inside that coin, has an entire record to teach us in sacred neutrality for every pocket or storehouse or bank it's ever been in.
Now that is really, really cool. I mean, that's something that I'd really like to go further into.
The truth
into
is in the
alchemy
money. Literally.
Okay, guys, so sit back and enjoy this reading, and we'll see you on the other side.
Hota yatata hacha, kamupa yita, hochana, kachawata, shimonata, jekota, imananaka, wacha cha chamata, chikana hoch, chana, shimonaka, autika, shomohotoka, chawanati, cheko, chanatu, ashna, uki, yateta, chumahata, ismana, chamoka, hatachimo, winjinahacha, chawina, chinahachawata, shawakia, ush, ata, ush, yete, ho, yayaka chamo, kamja, shamoda, sheta, hatu, katomachahacha, cha motecheki, nanaku, chanakawata, chakawa, chiteha, shashiyana, wa, yikecha, washna, momata, yanata.
Welcome, everyone, to another reading session. We are joined by Irene today. Irene, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, how did you find out about me?
You know, I was thinking about that before I came on. It was an interview with Veronica. I think I found it on YouTube. And I was interested because I'm Irish born and I never realized the spiritual history of my own country. So that was just fascinating because as a child, I played in that area. I remember rolling down those hills and having picnics with my family, but I never realized, you know, what was there.
What was there?
Yeah.
So you've heard me do readings before?
I have heard part of one last week. I'm a new member, just a few days. So,
well, you kind of know how it works. You kind of know how it works. You've heard me in the stream before. So, what kind of questions you have? You have the Akashic record of this world and 20,000 other worlds open to you right now.
Okay.
Okay, you're muffled there for a second. Say that again.
I had a dream last night, a very brief one. Did you need me to tell you what the dream was and then ask you the question?
No, just go ahead and ask me the questions. I'm already tuned in.
Okay. So my first question is, what is...
Yeah, you're gonna have.
My first question is, what is my soul's intended gifts and purpose for this lifetime?
Okay.
What is the divine blueprint of my soul for this incarnation?
Alrighty. So sit back and relax for a second. So your purpose of incarnation this lifetime. Bing. All right, I am tracking you back to your first immigration into Earth. So as I'm going back to 700, 800 AD, what I'm finding is you're not living in one lifetime. You're living 4 simultaneous lifetimes. And all the way up into 1916, 1915, you were living 4 and at some points 12 or 15 simultaneous lifetimes. So this means you have been in the French reincarnation grid. So let me go to where that would be, right here. So the lifetime that entangled you into the worst of the parts of resolution of contrast, from the contrast that you had created to the contrast that was informed on you, you were a young child in France and you were a pickpocket and you were really, really good at it. So by the time you made yourself to a teenager, you had gotten so good at pickpocketing the nobles of the area, you were hired to go to other cities to pickpocket certain specific people. And there was one mission that you were sent on, and you went to go pickpocket a priest. And what you got in his little pouch were coins that were much more modern than anything that anyone had ever seen. And you looked at these and you kept one of these coins and gave the rest of the pouch to the person, and the person didn't really realize it. And then you were looking at this coin and trying to figure out where it was. And you went to a fence that you had known, a person that could sell stuff like this. And this person immediately had never seen anything like this. And they gathered some of their other people and they wanted to buy the coin off of you. And you refused. You said you wanted to know the secret of this coin. Well, the secret of that coin, it was a St. Gaudens gold dollar from 1920 that had gone back in time. And this is where you got tied into what we'll simply call money magic. And this is what has divested you all the way back in history. So as soon as you got involved into that energy, everything all into your past began to revolve around the way gold or silver manifests into belief system. And your soul has these side lifetimes that's trying to figure a way out of money. You have multiple ways out of money, but this I am presence is trying to figure out what it can do with the existing money that it has and convert it alchemically into energy. And this is a bit of a self-deception from an alchemical researcher that you were in 1818 that was living in Massachusetts area. where you were trying to be the high-end alchemist. And this alchemist, quite spiritually aware and is very aware in this reading, and I've had to push him out, has been the one that's been influencing you to follow certain pathways that ultimately aren't repaying you spiritually, physically, monetarily, as well as romantically. Because the pheromones that you're putting out now are to complete all of those letting go of the matrix money and then being a being of energy exchange and zero karmic balance. So you are not exchanging debt ever again on the soul level. That is your sole purpose, is to show people that not only can it be done, it can be done with the grace and style of a grand sacred feminine woman.
Interesting.
Now, there's more to that. You know, doing it with grace and style means that there's something that you do that the world sees, whether it's at your own town scale, county scale, or nation or global scale. You have a choice in your I am presence at what scale you want to be seen in grace, and what skill sets that you want the ancestors to speak about that you have. One that comes out from your original soul frequency before you got all separated, and that's your Pleiadian side, okay, as well as Orion and Sirian. Those three genetic frequencies are bringing a song of memories to you that teach one how to weave consciousness into objects of focus, whether it be a crystal or a cup of coffee. Your choice to weave your energy into it is the representation of how many thousands of lifetimes you were a grandmother, weaving your own individual pieces of yarn, putting each individual stream of consciousness into that yarn that made a sweater or a pair of socks that would last a person for a few years and keep them warm as that energy of that grandmother was put into that. You've ultimately figured out the spiritual technology and the physical technology side, and how to blend the two with your I am presence to make focus objects of devices that are created for healing. You're a talisman creator. What you manifest. Items of protection that not only can be used for yourself, but for many others that are in very negative scenarios. You have a natural ability with your blood to open portals that allow toxicity to leave the auric field and pure elemental energy to replace that void space of toxicity. It's a very special talent in today's age, and it is very much needed. How you choose to do that is your grace, is your style of living, and how you want to be presented, whether it's through media and a media expression or your own individual passing of word of mouth of what it is that you choose to do.
So how would I translate that then into a skill that's usable? Because currently, what the skill I've developed is I actually read the records for others. I'm just starting to read for others.
Okay. Well, I kind of knew that.
I'm sorry?
I kind of knew that. And the answer,
Yeah.
the answer is, how many people are you really ready to hear you? Are you, this being right now, are you ready to be on stage? And what kind of stage forum do you want to be on to learn how to be on the stage and forum?
I felt I was on the threshold, and I was thrown into a situation that occurred in my life.
Can you bring the phone a little closer to you? It's hard to hear you.
Okay. So I was on the threshold of it. I was developing a website, and then something happened in my personal life that just threw me off into a really low density. And I have just put it aside for the moment to take care of those issues in my life.
Okay. So
because
I'm not.
I have to have a certain frequency to do it.
Oh, I absolutely understand that, though. And this is why I'm in the studio today recording a bunch of readings, and you are our third one today, because stuff happens in life that you have to take care of. And I get that. So anyone that's on a spiritual mission when you leave the mission and you come back to it, it's like you've never left it, and it's just there waiting for you to pick it back up. Nothing is lost. So when things happen, that is where more and more of your focus must be put into. We are also at a time where you have gone through the separation of densities, and the reason that that thing happened was it's not a match for your frequency going into the future, being that type of person that's reading in the public. You couldn't have that silent frequency of passive aggressiveness around you. You needed a procreative, co-creative personality that wasn't injustice and judgment of you or any situation that you're in. Therefore, that thing had to go before you could create this next level.
Okay.
Okay. So the next thing is, well, you're in it. Well, you also get a choice. You've dealt with it. Now, what can I do to create for the now? And my answer for you is you are learning to read for others. Dedicate 1 hour a week where you try to give yourself your own session, where you can just turn on your computer with a little webcam and just record yourself doing a 3-minute reading for yourself. And just pretend for yourself that the person in front of the camera is the person on the other side of the reading that you're doing. Read them, read their aura through your own computer. Get that skill. So 1 or 2 hours a week for you was going to do vitals for your linguistics when you are trying to empathically connect to a group of people or to one specific person who may have a teaching that can heal hundreds or thousands of others. You have that key inside you. You have we'll call this a golden key to many different soul families healing. And what that golden key is a particular soul code frequency to a planet called Ikwahika. Now, the Ikwahika is a planet that we will, in English terms, call a ghost planet, meaning this planet had reached an age where it decided that it was no longer going to extend a contract to a solar system, at the same time no longer extend a contract to a galaxy, and becoming a free-roaming universal planet only existing in universal time. So they were completely separate of all of the other realities in the universe and only could interact with the layer of the universe that was at universal time. And they went to the edges of the universe and expanded and explored. And this particular frequency is something you have to realize is in your light body, to be at the universal perspective in the body itself. I could liken it to what I do, and very much. The only thing that's holding you back is hesitation in linguistics.
That's true.
That's it. So my advice is go look at some of the study guides that kids had for SATs or ACTs and look for the language ones. Like one I remember when I took my SAT was the word aggrandizement. Okay? There are linguistical patterns that you can learn that will apply to all the teachings that you already know. And then inside those teachings that you already know are memories, inside DNA memories that are the completions to that story. And I told you about that solar frequency. When you begin to connect to people at universal scale, instantly their soul recognizes it, and the body programs those 20% of the DNA that isn't memory has to figure out how to calibrate or push away universal time. The body ultimately knows what universal time is because it started as a fetus of universal time. So we have it in us to recognize universal time. And this skill of bringing forth that particular soul code of universal time only means you have a very powerful connection of helping people let go of the perception of time, which is the perception of debt here.
Okay.
Okay. So what other kind of questions do you have?
Well, the next question is about probability. I know when I do readings, I don't let people really ask me about future But I want to ask you, what is the most favorable probability or place to be congruent with soul purpose in this space and time?
Mm.
I think I'm going to be making a move soon.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I understand why you're asking it. When I was a young reader in my early 20s, I had specialized in reading the individual of the now. And when the questions of the future came, I would always go back to, well, only the being of the now is going to understand the point of the future. So if I can expand the being of the now, the being of the future is the being of the now. And this is known as the teaching of the ancient past versus the ancient future versus the ancient present, where the I am presence becomes ancient and perceives its future and its past simultaneously, and then can create a set of predictive models that allows an I am presence in current fraud time to see a set of marker stones that can create deja vus through multiple dream experiences between the point of existence now and the point in the future possibility. So something can go through the baking process of being manifest and real with each step the I am presence goes forward. That's the nature of your question. Now, to answer what is the most favorable of those futures, only with what you know and desire, and the balance between knowing and desiring, with an understanding that toxicity can influence your desires versus needs. There's where we fall into knowingness versus guessing. When we are at that eternal universal frequency, there is an endless stream of knowingness in the embedded energy of photonic light that's being heard as sound from a being that was an infinite fetus that's now in a finite body of fraud time. So when you manifest in the being in front of you in the reading, you can manifest those futures where those special relationships can come through if you give them the tunnel vision of the future, so that they can understand that the being that's going to be in the future is going to be radically different than the being now, because each and every breath you take and each and every step you take and each and every action that you do has an equal and opposite reaction and action on many different levels of experience. The ultimate, even deeper answer to your question is, when a person wants to know about the future and is ultimately not ready to hear it, is you saying nothing. That's deep. Are you there, Irene?
Yes, I am. That was a lot to take in.
I know. I know. Just take a second here. I want to bring your energy up a little bit. So as I've been speaking with you, I've noticed that there's a couple feeding tubes that are attached to your lower chakra. And one of this is the situation in which you just left. There's so much love there, and at the same time, so much disappointment. And you're just trying to feed some angelic beings that are trying to bring peace and balance to it. But ultimately, there is going to be no peace and balance. There's a different set of ancestors and angels that need to be there. So would you mind just doing a little I am presence work with me?
Not at all.
So just repeat after me for a second. I, in the ever-present moment,
I, in the ever-present moment,
choose to open a spiritual court of equity,
choose to open a spiritual court of equity,
so I may find remedy and resolve.
I missed the first part of that, Andrew.
So I may find remedy and resolve
So I might find remedy and resolve
with all energies interacting with polarity.
with all energies interacting with polarities.
I bring all expressions of energy
I bring all expressions of energy
and all impressions of energy
and all impressions of energy
to zero balance.
to zero balance.
For this moment in no time,
For this moment in no time,
I stop broadcasting who I am.
I stop broadcasting who I am.
I become myself in all forms.
I become myself in all forms.
I disconnect all other feeding tubes.
I disconnect all other feeding tubes
that allow me to be in this state
that allow me to be in this state
or disallow me to be in this state.
or disallow me to be in this state.
This is the point of my quantum interaction
This is the point of my quantum interaction
with the application of sacred space.
Did you say with the application of sacred space?
Correct. This space
This space
is my heart.
is my heart.
I remove from my heart all balances of energy in the negative.
I remove from my heart all balances of negativity in my
Heart
energy, in my heart,
that has prevented me
that has prevented me
from seeing the wisdom of my website,
from seeing the wisdom of my website,
my business,
my business,
and my third and fourth dimensional impact onto all that I see.
and my third and fourth interdimensional aspect,
in dimensional expression.
in dimensional expression.
Okay. I open up my soul frequency
I open up my soul frequency
to universal time.
to universal time.
I connect all of my knowingness and wisdom
I connect all of my knowingness and wisdom
to every fiber of my body.
to every fiber of my body.
I nourish and cleanse myself
I nourish and cleanse myself
of all expressions of fraud time.
of all expression of
Fraud time.
broad time,
So I may understand true universal time
so I may understand true universal time
in these two legs manifest.
in these two
Legs
legs
manifest.
manifest.
Okay. How does that feel?
Feels like kind of a lightness around my heart, which I've had issues with the past few weeks.
I know. I'm at a point where what I'm trying to remove from your heart energy is something that just has to go very slow. This is not something you can just break off and let the chunks of ice fall off. This is something that has to go very, very slow. So there are times when I run across people that I'm reading that have heart issues like this. And for you, it's about understanding the next meditation process that you can incorporate to yourself is replacing the waters of your pericardium. Now, the pericardium is a fluid sac that surrounds the heart and protects the heart, and it is literally the psychic machine that creates sacred space. So I would like for you to pick up a book on anatomy and physiology and just read about the pericardium, and then to begin to incorporate it into your meditations and incorporate it into your imagery, that your pericardium is where the sacred space blooms around you so your true heart energies can open up. Think of a vacuum cleaner bag. The vacuum cleaner bag is very full, and that's where your pericardium is. You're going to dump it out and replace it with brand new programmable water. So one expression I'd like for you to try is to each night get some kind of cup or glass that you know you can put in the freezer, and I want you to make ice. And you're going to impress into this ice a very clean and powerful healing energy. You may even want to open up your skill of the Akashic energy and just give it a raw stream that has no words. And then I want you to put that cup in the freezer and freeze it. And then you can use that as a bath. You'll be able to put that ice into your bath. You could also, if you'd like, freeze it and pray over it many times, several times in a day or several times each day over a week, and then take a bath in it. Okay. You could also put that ice on top of your heart or any place that you hurt for a short period of time and then put it back in the freezer. It is your own alchemical process to begin for your body and your hands to know that you are transitioning the dense energies out of your waters and replacing it with a brand new program of lightness.
That's very interesting that you should bring the heart up, because in a meditation about 5 weeks ago, when I was coming back after traveling dimensionally, it was as though somebody superimposed a crystal heart over my heart. I could feel it just click into place. And ever since then, my heart, it's like I have two hearts, and one of them is beating out of time. So when I lay down in the evening, it's like two hearts beating, one of them out of time. The doctor says there's nothing wrong with my heart.
There's not. What it is I've just described 2 times. Okay, the 2 heart beating also represents the Native American expression called the heartbeat of Earth Mother. When you are a fetus in the womb and you have your first expression of sound that's converted into light, that's converted into sound, and that sound is converted back into a light expression, you hear your heartbeat and the heartbeat of your mother. And that's known as the heartbeat of Earth. And when you become a shamanic drummer, that is one of the most highest expressions you can do, where your drumming matches the heartbeat of Earth, and you become 2 hearts become one. You have an extraplanetary heart space thumping universal time into your source stream. Okay? Yes. So what does that mean? In your heart of hearts, it's time to change to universal time. To let go of dogmas, to let go of all the things being projected at you and go, I don't need that. It's my own universal expression. Much like I did when I made a choice to be public. Again, I can say you could do what I could do. It's just a matter of practicing it enough so the linguistics transfers over. And I welcome you into this field. I cannot wait till there's tens of thousands of people that can do what I can do.
Yes, I feel so joyful when I do that work. I feel so at home there. It's incredible to connect with another human being like that.
It's your purpose.
Right.
And now take it to the next level. Take it to the next level.
When I was told about 14 months ago in the meditation that I was a shaman, I honestly had to Google it because I really didn't know what that was. I knew it was American Indian, but I didn't know there were females. And after that, I asked what my skill was, and I found that I could read the records. And
you're a storyteller. Twisted hair. Twisted hair is where once they chose to be the storyteller in energy from birth, their mother and father would begin to twist a braid in their hair, and they get a new one for each master story that they told by the fire, until they'd have one really long braid of twisted hair that literally was a code that if somebody else went and touched the braids, they'd understand all the stories they told because their codes were all into the knot of the braid. This has been really special. Thank you for calling in. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And that was a really interesting reading with Irene. I mean, what a gorgeous being. I mean, how exciting all the prospects that lie ahead of her right now.
Right.
The pericardium training you gave her was quite incredible. I mean, that whole verse and the way you brought her through the different aspects at the end. I mean, that was just so incredibly powerful.
Bringing ourselves to the center of the heart can be a discipline of meditation.
Yeah.
And that's what I tried to show in this type of revocation there at the end, of how to invoke also a different state of presence within yourself. When you take that conscious, active, sacred application of mental imagery through meditation, you're completing a discipline that can complete soul circuitry that allows much more of your spark to be sovereign inside yourself without the programs limiting its ability for you to invest.
That's right. That's right. And then talking about, I mean, taking her through the records of the ghost planet. I mean, it's very rare that you talk about the Wahika, but I mean, you've mentioned it now. And
well, no, in any ghost planet in general, because they're not supposed to be interacting with our timeline, yet there is one of their sovereign beings here interacting with not only this timeline, but all the other 4 paradox timelines.
Fascinating stuff, isn't it?
Well, it just shows that our process here of graduation has held up the graduation process of universal beings at that high of a scale.
So we're going
and
to...
at that low of a scale, we have literally like universal constipation at this point. Well, the universe cannot get relief because the gears that are the galactic ascension machine have literally corked everything.
So necessity is the mother of invention, and literally they found a way to then interact, because that's the only thing at this moment that will help us come forth and understand how unlimited we are in this aspect of human.
Manifest here in the now. Right. And I described her as a record reader, similar to what I can do, but in a very different way. It is through her universal time source. So those beings that go to her, that the only healing that's going to get them through their karmic retribution of being in the machine is to understand source time at the biggest scale they can try to perceive as this I am presence technology. And that is the gift that they will take out to the rest of the universe as they say, I'm done with Earth, I've learned the lessons, and I'm now going with source time frequency. In each planet that I go to, I will reconnect to source time frequency until I am back at the galactic or universal central sun. And then again, I'll go through a spiritual rebirth and then invest back into the universe as a source time frequency being.
And that was so amazing how the teaching in itself, when you explained to Irene universal time, how we are all part of that, how we were all born to that source, and then all the different aspects of time, and how we can reconnect. You took us all with your words through that process and understanding, and I was quite deeply impacted by that, because a few more depth of understandings came through, a few more layers. Did you find that as well, Debbie? There were like a few more layers when he was saying those words, that it was just like, yes, there was an expansion of consciousness, an expansion of something more. It was quite incredible.
And also what I've found really fascinating too is what you're talking about, that the memories are in our DNA that come through those frequencies from universal time. And so we can sort of go into that and connect to that universal time.
DNA is memories. Memories are what? Photonic light that at some point was in a shared or conjoined reality between two beings who used reality rules to create sound through light, through manifestation through a body. So a DNA memory that comes from source time is from something that was 2, 3, 4, or 500 strands of consciousness, and an experience that it had is in your DNA skin suit and can only be perceived through an understanding of source time.
Right.
It is that compacted inside the little Russian egg inside the Russian egg, except this is reverse. We're the tiniest little thing, and the bigger and bigger scale is your universal source timeness. So can the Russian egg, the smallest one inside, undo itself. And that is sometimes a big lesson that many, many beings have to come to learn. And our DNA memories represent that great lesson of graduation into source time, but still being I am presence enough to be in now time as beings in unified photonic light over all of our span of memories that are soul sharded in out many hundreds of galaxies or universes.
Yes, I remember there's a mantra that I used to work with, and I think everybody has their own, but there was one where I just call forth that I expand and expand and expand my mind and my consciousness to the omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent. I expand, and I keep on calling that forth so that I remember
consciously
again.
Manifesting it.
Yes.
Not in a recreational mode.
No, it's that willful determination. It's the calling it forth, sending out that message, calling it forth, the remembrance.
Debbie, what is your view on that willful determination side? I know we've all had those moments where without willful determination, we wouldn't be who we are today.
Exactly. And I know that especially when you're in certain circumstances in your life, you get to a certain point, you really have to bring up that willful determination to get yourself out of that hole or whatever it is that you find yourself in life experiences. So I really find that useful.
So when it comes to meditation and forceful determination, when you're fending off entities, it's the same skill set.
When I'm
fending off an entity that's trying to get into you.
Oh, yes.
It's the same skill set. It's just perceived and used differently.
Indeed, absolutely. I mean, and sometimes you really have to get into it, and especially when the pressure is immense and you can feel they're enforcing themselves into your space. I mean, I've seen you get in there, Debbie, like you just get all like almighty when that force flows through you. You're just filled with it,
It's an experience that I had with you guys, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to Irene, we have a a classic being of teaching here that is part of the Return to the Inner Kingdom series. And we're going to be continuing this Return to Inner Kingdom series, so we are going to be looking for the next group of people, so stay tuned to galactichistorian.com for those that want to be a part of the next scale of teaching. If you go back and look at these last 14 readings, there's tremendous amounts.
Indeed, indeed. There's so much to be learnt from each individual in that aspect. And that's the beauty of it, because we do learn from each other. We can take what resonates with us. We can leave behind what doesn't. But we are so varied on this planet. And so there are just so many different aspects, unlimited in their potential, that we get to explore. And it's rather exciting, because you get to see how beautiful this planet is, how beautiful all of you are, how incredibly talented everybody is, and just to bear witness to that when they come on the show and they start talking. I mean, every single one of you, again, heartfelt thanks, because it's really changing the world what you guys are doing there.
Right, and I have quite a few people that are professional readers that come and visit me privately and publicly now. In this series, 4 people were public presenters in their own perspective. And for them, it was their own universal experience and source frequency experience. For everyone else out there, you got a chance to be exposed at a person's journey.
Yeah.
And a journey that's being told in the Akashic frequency that is in the colloquial language many of us understand, not in the ancient bipartisan languages of the past that determine polarity. The colloquial now.
That's so true. And you know, when you were explaining, for example, that comes up a lot about blood, and also for Irene, you said you have a blood that opens up portals. So does Debbie.
Right.
And last week, on this last Saturday,
and the ice magic too.
Yeah, last Saturday we did a special LCE session on blood, because this is a really big topic which has so many implications for us once we have a true understanding of what it is. So if you've missed that, LCE members, it's in your library. Check it out. And for those of you that aren't LCE members and don't wish to join, there is a button where you can just buy it. It's $11. It's about an hour, and it's jam-packed with really useful information for you.
So one of the things when we recorded blood, we wanted to go deep into a spiritual understanding of what blood was. And Irene's teaching is a classic blood teaching, coming forth how she got set on a path, and now this path in front of her is something that she has to figure out how to manifest in.
Right. I mean, how was that for you, Debbie? You're also a portal opener. When you started to discover that talent, I mean, Andrew, do you want to get into that with Debbie about how it affects people when they start to get into those types of understandings of what they're capable of? And then we can go through Debbie's journey, because it's fascinating.
Yes, and for those of people who know that Debbie has been around for a while, we just recently finished recording a past life regression where she took us deep into the future, a year into the future, and this is something that we're putting together. It should be out in the next couple weeks. But Debbie, when we do past life regressions, we are making a mystical experience, and you're sharing it. Tell us about what it is that you do when it comes to creating the portals and opening it.
Right. I consciously and willfully actually open up the portals when I'm working with people. And the main thing is getting to the root cause of what the issue is that they come to see me about.
Exactly.
You know, because everybody has something going on different, and if I've had a couple of people ask me, look, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I've got any issues that I'm really aware of, but I really want the past life experience. So I said, well, why don't you just leave it up to your higher mind, and we'll just ask your higher self to take you to that past life that's most important for you to clear and look at now. And it's not the stories of everybody's life that's so important. What I find the most important is when they get to their point of death. And the main question I ask a person when they get to their point of death is, what did you conclude about yourself and your life at this point? And I found every time, whatever it was that they concluded about themselves is the energy and the attitude that they carry into the next lifetime.
Yes. And when I read people in the Akashic Record, I discover if they have a light body review or if they have a life view. There are two different things. A life review is just your DNA memories of the now. And if you were a sparked enough being during that lifetime, you'll get a light body review. that light body review allows you to see a pattern of life's 100, 300, or 5,000 years long, or longer if your soul has been making these really long-term scenarios.
Yeah.
Because once you're in the astral world, your other self is in resonance storance, waiting for you to come and see it again, because you are giving itself long-term plans as you go through the great forgetting of the astral world and are born into the physical body. And as we learn different esoteric skill sets, we learn how to dip back into the infinite presence of who we are. And past life regression, when done properly with the portal creations, can connect us to that source that was helping us plan 100 lifetimes in a row, because that's what it had been doing in the astral world for its 1,000-year span of determining what did it take to get me to 1984 to make a right turn and not a left turn. Because it made something to that being, because in 1999 something was going to happen that was very different in your world, because it was working through what's called 1 degree of separation.
Exactly.
And that's what brings us into soul family. That's what brings us into twin stars and all of those other things that people think are there, because they're the mystical experience waiting for us to happen. And as long as we get out of our own way, it happens.
It does. It's really an amazing process, that what you do and what you help people, heal within themselves and get to see, and you give them the tools of what to do for them, for their future, and how they can step into that.
Okay, and one of the difference between the two skill sets is you are allowing the person to be the co-creator of the information.
Yes.
And there's an inner trust that they have with themselves, along with your presence, both mystical and physical presence, that guides them through a set of structures that allow them to be safe enough to say forth what's coming forth on that mystical mind.
Yes, I actually really tune in, and I actually start to see what people are seeing. So I start to see that stream where they go back to, because the past, present, future, we all know that exist simultaneously, and what we're doing is we're connecting the subconscious to the conscious mind, and to take you back so that you can see what was going on that you're still carrying on to in this lifetime, and you can get the contracts, your soul contract on that, and get the lessons that you're meant to learn in that lifetime, and see how it ties in with this lifetime and how you can roll that up.
And then how you can change your contracts in the now.
Exactly.
And that's the healing that you can have when you have a past life regression,
Yes.
where you are letting yourself and not someone external of you guide the story.
Exactly, because a lot of people go to other people and they say, "Oh, you were this in your in your past life, or you were that." Well, if you haven't had that experience and you haven't gone back to validate that, people could tell you anything.
That's right. And that's why when I do an Akashic record reading, I always present everything in the sovereign, sacred, neutral, authentic presentation, because that's what allows them to retain something of truth and authenticity to it. If not, it again is just another person speaking. But the same thing applies to those that are speaking and are in their disbelief of what's coming out of their own voice. And that is the nature of a subjective reality that we live in. It is so subjective and so malleable, it can easily create hesitation and doubt.
Exactly. I find that a lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time, because I don't take them deep enough so that they don't remember. They're consciously aware that they're connected to their subconscious, and they're consciously aware of what they're experiencing, so that they can actually know that this is a true experience and not just something that I'm going to say that I recorded, wrote down or whatever. And that experience, when they have that total experience in the physical and emotional and mental and spiritual aspects, it's so healing, and it really lets them know, because some people don't really know whether they believe in reincarnation or they believe that they go on.
Or they don't even believe in it at the concept. They just read about it and wonder, is it real? And I run into that a lot, where people have read about these different mystical concepts but don't actually care. It's just something they read in the colloquial, like Akashic record. Akashic record comes from the Indian expression of the Mahabharata, of the whole expression of light in the language. And yet, we look at psychic readers, we look at all of these other labels that have been put out there that have taken away the individual journey, and it's always the individual journey that helps the authentic moment of the now come out.
It's so true, Andrew.
Okay, both you and I assist people on a journey, and we each get our ends by the same way, which is allowing the authentic self to come through.
Exactly, and they experience the changes immediately in their life.
Correct.
Yeah.
And by allowing those changes, you get to experience the mystical over and over and over again. And then you get that that little gem where you can share it with someone else, and all of a sudden you see the spark of the mystical in their eye, and you know that one day they're going to pass it on to someone else.
Exactly. And, people notice the changes because it's not only just a mental change, but your whole body changes, the frequency and the energy changes. And people go, what's different about you? And they can't put their finger on it, but they've completely changed and their mind's opened and they've opened a different timeline of experience.
Their signature frequency has opened up to the infinity. And they're allowing the first little peek into the synopsis of what the infinity is.
Right.
And from there, they'll make the choice of how much more they want to peek and put up the periscope and go, what's out there? Make a mystical experience right now. Bang. Okay, next. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks later, some take a year. It's okay.
I really thoroughly recommend that people have a minimum of 3, regressions to really get to the whole core and then to get the right, because sometimes it takes 3 because you've had so many lifetimes with these other individuals that are creating this karmic wheel that you get into. So, but yeah, I just really, encourage people after they've had those experiences to allow that to integrate because, you've got to calibrate. Your whole body recalibrates itself.
That's right. It whole recalibrates itself. And in my private recession and retainers, I run frequently into people that want a high level of coaching. And for that coaching to be there, there has to be a showing of healing. And when you recommend 3, they have gotten on and they're able to follow through the healing. And the same in my expression. If they're going to get up and be serious, I've got to see it. And if I don't see that healing, there's nothing that even an individual presenter can do until that person is in their signature frequency of had that experience of mystical healing.
Yes. Yep.
And you just know it when you look at them. Nat, how many horses have you seen the look put back into their eye?
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful thing. But I also agree with Debbie. It's the 3 times. It's the first aspect is the first, oh my God, this is it. This is the clarification. The second aspect is then the steps and understanding and figuring out how to get through that equation.
And how much of your raw presence can you bring?
Yes. And then the third is then having done that, coming and seeing the conclusion to that equation if there's another aspect. And then just that experience in itself has changed your world.
And then seeing the rites of passage that it took to go through that experience.
Yeah. And I mean, I've done sessions with Debbie. Andrew and I did one together that was actually recorded for you guys and will be available. Andrew's session was out of
amazing.
This world. That's all I'm saying. It was, oh my goodness. And holding the space. Debbie and I actually had to really hold a lot of space. She took him under. We had a big fire going, and I'm standing around, literally keeping that realm so that these guys could go deeper and further and deeper. And so we did a couple of things that we've never really done before. You did both of us together, just for and that was for us personally. But then the information that came out was so vital. There was a long discussion: shall we not? Shall we? And Kat also came in and he listened. He's like, some of the stuff we have to let out.
Have to, yeah.
So we will, and it's coming up this week, so stand by for that. But Debbie, when I had these sessions with you, there were incredible healings. Like I had all these memories of trauma in my spinal column. And I was having great difficulty purging that myself. And you were able to hold a space for me and then talk me through it whilst I was at the apex of my experience in full union and communion with all of my selves, communicating with you what needed to be said and done so that me, this being, could then physically let go of that manifest in this timeline. I mean, I could literally feel it flying out of my spine. I mean, that's something I have to share because it's, how do you explain something like that? I mean,
it's so intuitive that when Andrew had actually given me the clue of what there was something else going on, and it was to do with you. I intuitively tuned straight into that and knew exactly what it was that I needed to do and what I needed to say to get rid of, to bring it all out and heal it.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
And that's the fun when you guys actually do clients together, because I know you are now got a whole group of clients that you are actually working in tandem with. And the results have been really, really astounding. And that's why we really wanted to bring you on the show and say, hey, we've got a lot of tools out there. Yeah. It is possible.
There are many ways to come to an understanding of this authentic, sovereign interior self. And what we're presenting here is an internal and an external way. And they're both equally as valuable in the toolbox of self-expansion right now. And we are beings of self-expansion, and we must manifest our own expansion sometimes. And having an experience where you can go back and know it was your own authentic voice that said it, will it mean more something to you? Only your hindsight will tell when you're ready to value the experience with the infinite mind.
And this is another topic that we wanted to get onto at this moment, is the skill and the alchemy of hindsight, opening up your heart from the back and looking through your heart and looking
so
at...
that betrayal energies are not projected at you any. Because once you see it, it's no longer a betrayal.
That's right. That's right. And you were saying also the backstabbing and all of that, and being able to see things in true and correct, sacred, neutral hindsight is your teaching then, because already by that recognition, you've changed an equation that can't sneak up on you.
Correct.
It's done. It's a fait accompli.
You know, we see in modern pop culture the eyeball opening up for the third eye.
Yes.
Well, here's something for modern pop culture to end the whole spiritual backstabbing process. You see an eyeball open out of the front of your heart and an eyeball open the back of your heart. And you create your own dialogue and meditative imagery where you're looking out the back of your heart, looking for anything that was the backstab gem energy to identify it and illuminate it as false light. And therefore, it has no space in your heart chakra from behind anymore, which is its own reflection in the front. That betrayal is being manifested in front of you, because what you believe is what you manifest.
And this is another aspect, yet again, what you covered with this re-recording we did of the astral travels. You were speaking on how to recognize the different frequencies and finding out their authentic signature frequency truth by calling their name.
Calling their name.
Calling their name. Wow.
And then after a while, you have to make your own understanding that you can blacklist beings. And this is not putting a label on them. This is identifying a source frequency truth about them.
Right.
That they're using false light technology to alter you from your sovereign self course. Okay, does that mean nothing else will work with it? No, it means when you share that with your ancestors, anything going through contract creation has you as a resource to determine what contracts it broke, so it can determine if it wants to use that resource, knowing full well it'll break the contracts.
Exactly. And one person who's really skilled at this is Debbie.
She's
incredible. I mean, I've seen it when you've done that, when you've done a super hardcore session, and I literally watch you walking and the whole of your back's expanded, and you can see just this light shining out of you so that nothing can follow you through.
Yeah, I make sure that nothing can, and like I said, I hold that energy and that willful power, and nothing can penetrate.
Nothing can. You have created that sovereign egg bubble of reality, so that being you are sharing space with can have their experience.
Yes.
In neutrality, without justice, without a label, so that they can leave that bubble of reality without confusion.
Exactly, and nothing follows them back, because anything that comes out in the studio when I'm working with people, I also set up on Skype an energy field so that it never comes back.
Never comes back. Okay. This has been a really, really fun time talking about all of this, and you know, this past life, future life regression that we did, both Natalie and I did, the second one that we recorded, you know, we were just saying how deeply impactful it was. And this even wowed me. And for those people that have known me, when the word wow comes out of my mouth, I wowed myself.
I did.
Many, many times in that recording. And I contemplated for a long time if I was going to release this, because it is a very complex understanding of who we are, what we are, and where we are. And when both Natalie and Debbie and Kat went back to listen to it, they had their own understanding that said that people can understand this.
Yes.
I think so. I really do. I mean, you do too, Debbie.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I believe
they're ready to hear it. Yep.
I mean, it's a big step.
Yeah. Big step.
Big step.
You know, putting yourself on the line to put out your regression into the future at a time where you have all sorts of other people claiming the same thing.
Yes.
You're putting yourself on the line. What we did is we put that moment not on the line, as in a moment of exposure to the world of what it takes to be an infinite being, to delve into that future, protected in a sacred space, so that when we come back, we are new beings. And we are not locked into that one moment, but that one moment is an infinite teacher for us. And then when we create more and more moments, like doing the second regression into the future, it created a more intense connection into that moment-to-moment mystical experience, which we were manifesting without the initial intention of sharing with anyone.
That's right.
But the second time had the initial intention of manifesting and potentially sharing. And within that, it created something that, when we put it out there, uniquely different, invaluable resource that the system cannot put value on.
Exactly.
Because it is an hour of material that is straight from the highest source connection that I've put myself in.
Yeah, it's truly out there, out of this world. It was, like we said before, it was a really big decision to do that, to open up your heart in such a way. But Andrew wanted to do that, and he thinks everybody's ready. It's an interesting time to be releasing such material where everybody's going through their separation of densities.
And that's what I speak about.
Yes.
Heavily speak about in this regression to the future, is an understanding of why the separation of densities occur, and why we will be able to tell who has separated their densities and who hasn't.
Oh yeah, you explained that really, really beautifully. I mean, an incredible teaching just in itself, just those moments. So many of those moments in that moment. You know, some people you wait for about 3, 4, 5, 6 months and they say one thing that just sticks with you. When I'm with Andrew and I'm listening to him, it's every second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth sentence. Why? Because he's always there. He is.
He's totally
That's
present.
it.
Yeah.
He just is.
Yeah.
And when I am.
You be isn't.
I be isn't and I amin'. We're going to create a whole new lingo.
Andrew, when you were in that, when you were doing that, when I was doing that second regression with you, and what you started to share, and in that state with what you've been able to see, it was really interesting too, because it was such a high energy, high caliber of what you were seeing into the future. But I actually got to see a whole vision of it myself.
Yeah, you got your own portal vision of
I
it.
did,
Yes.
and that's what really thrilled the hell out of me, because
Because you were able to see that what I was seeing.
yeah, it was great.
And it was very connective for me too, to have someone else to see it that I didn't have to vocally repeat it to.
Right. Yeah, it was.
You know, to just go through the raw. All right, here it goes. Let's ride this roller coaster. We're gonna see where it's gonna end.
And so I just intuitively just kept taking you through more and
more and more.
Yeah.
And you know, whenever any disturbance would come through, you could wave through it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That hand came up.
Yeah, that. Talk to the hand.
Now, what was fascinating is the dates you gave him. You took him to 2016, 2020. I mean, there's a lot of years you took him to, and you had specific dates, which I found really interesting, because it wasn't really a date that we would normally recognize as a date. Did you do that just randomly, or is that what came through to us, that specific time?
It was interesting because what first came up for me was June, but you know, I knew that was coming more from my ego brain type of thing. So I just had to take a deep breath and tune in intuitively more. Where do I take him next? Because we've gone as far as we could in this one particular thing. So where will I take him next? And I have to just trust exactly what comes up, and I just let it come out. And it's May, which I've never say May for a future thing, you know. But I just had to follow the intuition, and it was perfect.
Oh, yes, it was.
Yeah.
Indeed.
May.
And then 2020 came up really strong too.
Yeah.
2020, that was a big one.
Yeah.
That was a big one.
That's a
So,
huge-
guys, this is jam-packed, and Kat has promised us, I'm smiling at Kat now, that this week...
Good kitty.
Good kitty. That this week, by the end of this week, we shall have that available for all of you guys to buy, and we shall have it up on our new website. If you've noticed, we are creating a new platform, working 24/7 around the clock to get everything sorted and started for you. And we will be giving you an explanation of how to use all these new features. This is a very, very advanced platform. You'll be having so many more functions and aspects, and far more material.
Oh yeah, you'll have 50 languages in all of the shows, and all of this will be keyword searchable. So every show that we've done is going to be in an archive. You'll have a transcript for every show that's keyword searchable for whatever it is that you're looking for.
So think of Arcturians, and then everything that for
I've
example, ever said about Arcturians, you'll get all the clips, and then you can put the different words together, and they will find then those clips for you. And that will be your Galactic Historian archive.
Yep. Fully searchable, fully highlightable, and it'll be linked to its own expression of a wiki.
And then we also have Andrew's TV channel coming up.
That's the Ustream channel. That's
Yes.
which you guys have moved away from the free YouTube platform, which had many issues with our broadcasting.
Oh yeah.
It just was unacceptable to stay at that network with the level of production that we were going. And here we are on a Ustream, our very own Galactic Historian TV channel.
That's right. And we'll be setting up things so that you can either do VOD or we will have at one time point we're just going to have things running. So every time you feel like a GH fix,
Come on in.
come on in and just listen to the great man talk.
and all the wonderful people that come around too.
Oh, yes.
And it's coming up. I will be on the Sean Stone show for another follow-up interview.
This Friday.
Yeah, this Friday.
And we'll send out an email too.
Yeah, where we will be talking about CERN in depthly. And you can imagine what sort of questions from Sean Stone's perspective that he has to me about CERN.
Yeah, Sean's quite a character, and he's got some really interesting understandings. And when you hear both of these guys start to let it rip, it's fun. Don't miss out on it. It's really good fun.
Sean is concerned about CERN, and we must discern CERN.
Indeed, we must discern CERN.
In all the multidimensional ways we can discern.
With discernment.
Discernment.
Yes. The motto of the week: discern CERN.
Discern CERN. I spy you, CERN. You are not getting past us. You will not empower Operation Maple Leaf to empower the Canadians with fear. Nor Jade Helm, nor, any of the other ones that are going on simultaneously in dozens of other countries right now. Let go of the fear, everyone. We've come to a point where fear is just something to occupy your mind, to create hesitation, doubt, or to make you go into polarity.
That's right.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next week on the Galactic Historian TV channel.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.